there is just a different aspect of like reaction time to like trying to dodge a hook coming like that's trying to knock you out, and like you have to block that and like move and react to that in less than a second, you know, and bring your arm up and guard against that, as opposed to just hitting spacebar or hitting tab or hitting caps lock.
I don't think being athletic, not being an athlete. Those are two different things. Being athletic has nothing to do with your mental toughness, because being athletic means that you're capable, at least the way I interpret the word, is you're easily capable of adapting to multiple like physical a bit like capabilities.
Mm-hmm.
So like maybe you're good with like you have good footwork, you have good hand-eye coordination, you have like these good like general athletic skills.
Okay.
Whereas being a good athlete requires the mental aspect as well.
Okay, I definitely agree with what you just said. However, I still kind of stand with my original statement though. You know, that like I think to be like athletic, you do have to have like physical, or to be like an athlete, you have to have like a physical aspect to like your body, like to be able to perform.
I mean, esports athletes, they have to fit, they have to work out to be like the best performing esports teams. They have like personal trainers to help them work out, to help like, because them working out helps like benefit their mental health, and it also benefits their reaction speed because their bodies are healthy. They're able to, you know, maintain that level of focus.
But the thing is like they're not like, there's just I don't think they're reaching like a certain level, like if they're like a bodybuilder or something, like, and they're like an esports player, like I could call them an athlete, but I would say that's more based off of like the fact that they're a bodybuilder, you know, not like that they're like an esports player. But like the thing is that like the actual thing of doing the esport itself isn't like a high level of demand of physical exertion for me to consider it athletic, you know. It's just too much mental to me. Like it's just too much like about like mental awareness and like understanding your game and like everything that's going on in that game, and like the same thing in regular sports. But like the actual physical exertion isn't nearly as much. Like,
so then let me ask you this, because you just said earlier you agree with me about the fact about athletes having to have that athletic portion and that mental portion.
Uh-huh.
Why are we weighing the mental portion less than the physical portion in this discussion then? With how you're saying, because you're saying in esports it's more of a mental thing than a physical thing. Why is the mental thing being weighed less?
Well, it's not being weighed less. Remember what I said earlier was that I believe you have to have both to be considered like an athlete or athletic. Like to be like, I think to be athletic, you basically.
The thing is,
maybe
you're weighing.
Yeah, maybe like I'm kind of changing like my definition now of like being athletic, because I agree with what you said. To be an athlete, you have to have the mental discipline. You know what I mean? But like to also be an athlete, I think you have to have that physical exertion, and you have to be putting your body in some kind of like pushing your body physically to be considered an athlete also, rather than just mentally.
Yeah, but we at the very beginning of this conversation, we said that the physical exertion for esports athletes is their capability to react to high speeds consistently.
But that's not the only thing that makes up athleticism, is the thing. Is that like just because they have that doesn't mean that that's enough. Like there's like almost no other strain put on their body, is the thing.
I mean, if you really want to think about it, at the end of the day, their mechanics are more refined to their hands, whereas like with traditional athletes, their mechanics are refined more to their hips and shoulders, because that's where a lot of like momentum and like a lot of athletic skill is based off of.
I don't think so necessarily. I think that comes down to more of a, with traditional sports, I think that's more of a sport to sport kind of thing, because MMA, I think you're going to be using your hands and you're like grappling and all that kind of stuff way more than like, you know, playing baseball, like, you know, like swinging a bat, but like catching, you know, with the glove and mitt is like way different than hitting with like hand and keyboard. But like with esports, it's across the board. Like you're basically using hand and keyboard or controller. Whereas like with traditional sports, it's like every sport is different with like what mechanics you're using and how you're using them too.
For the most part, but baseball, when you want to pitch, when you want to hit the ball, you still have to have that really good hip rotation. Same thing with the pitch.
But
you gotta have that momentum coming from up, down, all the way through with your hips.
But
MMA,
you're doing them completely different ways, though, is the thing.
But the baseline, this is the reason why, like, if you're really athletic, you can transition between multiple sports very effectively. It's because the baseline for where that mechanic resides is in your shoulders and your hips, generally. Obviously, there might be those very few sports that might differ. But if you look at almost every single sport, there's a baseline of having really good, like, hip reflexes and shoulder reflexes.
Okay, but those things aren't required in esports, though.
And that's what I'm saying. They're changing the mechanic from being hips and shoulders to just your wrists.
Okay,
and now your wrists are being like super fast in reaction, and instead of your hips and shoulders.
But the thing is like I said, I just don't think that that's enough to consider it physical exertion, because you still use your hands, wrists, shoulders, hips, knees, and your feet and all that in most regular sports, though. Like, that's like way more. Like the way you grip your baseball bat, the way you catch your ball, the way you throw your spiral in your football, the way you block your defender, like the way you tackle somebody, the way you throw your back serve or your like overhand, like the way you like shoot your free throw, and like, you know, the way your wrist bends, like all of that shit, like all those mechanics are relevant in almost all sports. But like so in esports, there's only one or two physical mechanics.
So then, would you say that the mental strain that esports provide is just the same as traditional sports then? Because if we think that the physical strain is very less in esports, but the mental strain is like significantly more in esports than it is in regular sports, and then now it's vice versa for the physical strain and the mental strain in traditional sports compared to esports, then wouldn't they be why would they be any different? It's just now the scales are tipped in different directions for comparing both.
What?
Is the mental strain from traditional sports from esports comparable to traditional sports, or is it greater or less than? Like, that's basically what I'm asking.
Okay, is the mental strain from esports comparable to traditional sports? Oh, fuck. Okay, so I think yes. You know what? I'm going to say yes, because it really depends on like your mentality and your approach to like your sport and your craft. You know what I mean? And I think most esports players, like from like the ones I viewed on Twitch, take their sport like very competitively, you know? And just like having that competitive mindset is very stressful. You know, and like can like your physical like stress and stuff like add on to it? Like add on to that mental stress, yes. But like that mental stress alone can create physical stress, you know? Like,
okay, then compare to the training regimens though for esports athletes to regular athletes, because I know like from just documentaries and things like that, when you look at esport athletes, the best teams in the world train way more than the best teams in like any sports in the world, like hours per day. The best like esports athletes team was like train like 12 hours a day, like every single day.
That's a lot.
Like, yeah, like through scrims, through individual practice, solo queue, all that type of stuff.
Damn.
They'll like 12 hours a day.
Yeah, you're right. That is true. That's because I remember when I was watching when we used to play World of Warcraft competitively. Yeah, like watching like arena players like stream, they would be practicing 12 to like 14 hours a day, and then they would like be practicing off stream too. Whereas like football players, it's like they practice for 3 to 6 hours a day, I think, or so, you know, because they'll have like a 3 or 2 hour practice in the morning and then another one like in the evening or something, you know. So it's like not nearly as much time, but then they have that physical exertion too. So,
which that's why they have a less.
That's why they have a lighter time workload, you know.
Yeah.
workload in terms of their time total put into it. I guess when you actually consider like how much time esports players are putting into like their sport compared to regular athletes, because I know MMA fighters, like, you can't practice more than like 3 or 4 hours a day. Like, no way. You know, like, you're gonna be fucking exhausted.
Right.
Yeah, like you're beat up, like you're done. You know, you gotta recover, you gotta eat, you gotta get your calories. You know, same with football, man. Like 4 hours a day, like you're done, dude. You know, like I remember that in high school, like 2 days, like 4 hours, 5 hours a day, like exhausted every single day. That's why it's called Hell Week. You know, like, or really it was Hell Summer. You know, but.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess it also depends on the sport you're playing too.
Yeah, too.
True. The physical sport, like the physical contact sports, you can't really train as much because there's actual way more wear and tear on your body than other sports.
Yeah.
Volleyball, baseball, tennis, all those sports, like you could train way longer. Soccer,
but
you know,
I feel like what it really comes down to is like, do we think that, I don't know, do you think that the time that people are putting into their esports is like that mental workload, is that equal to the physical and mental workload of regular athletes then?
I think it is.
You think so?
I think it is, because the thing is, with regular sports, this is the biggest part, when you're like in a mental like block, you're tilted, you're angry, you're frustrated about your performance, you can sit back, refresh your mind, and like reset and come back together. Esports and video games, you see it all, like you hear the stereotypical just like rage on video games, all this stupid shit that's being said on video games. People get angry and they keep playing when they're upset, because they're either too addicted, or they just don't have like, if they're in an esport, they don't have time to sit in between games because they're just scrimming a whole other team. If they're upset and they're angry, they doesn't matter. Hey, get it together. You're at the next game right now.
Yeah. I don't know, like, yeah, like, so you're basically saying like it's like non-stop for like esports players though.
It's
right?
non-stop, and if you're frustrated and you're in a bad mood, well, tough luck. You have to fucking figure it out.
I mean, I feel like that's true again, like with regular athletes too, though, because like after you're done working out, like you're tired, like you're like exhausted, and you're hungry, and your body hurts, and like that adds mental like strain like to your body. Like
the key thing is, you're saying afterwards. I'm saying this is happening during.
Yeah, but I'm saying like even like when they're not like physically working too, they're still mentally stressed, you know, because like their body hurts. So that's still like a continuation of mental exertion.
Yeah, but again, this is the thing though. You have this, your body's stressed. Okay, whatever. And I'm not training. I can just sit. My body might be stressed, but at least I have the room to mentally just like kind of recover and relax. Whereas when you're practicing, when you're actually doing the act, you don't have the option to mentally check out, because if you do, your team just might have just lost the game. They might not get good practice. A lot of things can go wrong. You might lose your position because you're not like practicing effectively, because you tilt too much, you get angry way too fast, and you can't focus. Whereas other sports, they're like, sure, yeah, you're upset, take 5 minutes, cool off, come back, get in there.
Yeah. Okay, well, if you're saying that like they're like, if you really think that like they're like on the like same level as like regular athletes, then like why don't they get paid the same?
I think that has to do more with the fact that with the viewership and how many people are entertained by these sports, and like esports versus regular sports, where it's like esports, I hate to say it, but there's a very small demographic of people that actually care about esports, that actually like to watch video games like that. Whereas regular sports, dude, you can fill stadiums on stadiums on stadiums for people.
Yeah, you could if you had the size.
Yeah, if you had the size, which, I mean, okay, I guess, actually, now that I think about that, though.
But you could do that with regular esports, too. You know,
could do
like,
that with some esports.
Yeah, like with live esports, because, dude, like, look at the League of Legends championships, dude. Like, fucking 400,000 viewers on Twitch, bro. 400,000. Can you imagine 400,000 people in a stadium? I'm pretty sure that's bigger than most stadiums, right?
Yeah, but when they have live events for at least they're like throughout the year, they're people aren't as like crazy about it to go see it live in person. Because like they can like what they're seeing at those live events is like basically a large projector.
Yeah.
Whereas when you're at a live sporting event,
You see them moving around and shit.
Yeah, you see like them. Oh, that crazy play that just happened. You saw it in person instead of on a computer screen that you can press back and watch it 300 times if you want to.
Yeah, that's true.